On the line with us right now is Dr. Kenny Handelman to talk about the recent survey of parents of ADHD children and the stress levels they face during the school year. And those stress levels can be high. Dr. Kenny explains.
That's the type of thing I see in my office all the time. Part of what happens is having a child with ADHD can be very stressful. And that's what this study shows. It's stress at school, it's stress socially, it's stress at home. And then on top of that, part of what compounds this and makes this worse is the fact that so many people have misinformation. People make assumptions and people make judgments, and that increases the stress dramatically. It makes it so much harder for families to deal with ADD.
What about the understanding issue? Would it make it easier for everyone involved? If they had the right understanding, would that solve a lot of problems?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why getting the right diagnosis is critical. And by people getting the information they need, they start to understand what's really going on. And then instead of considering a child behavioral and parents incompetent, people will start to realize that a child has a medical condition called ADHD and that their parents are working on behavioral strategies to help to improve the functioning. But before people even know what's going on, it's hard to manage. And so people are judgmental because they lack the proper information.
Now, you speak of strategies. I would think they're easy to implement if you know what to do.
Well, the interesting thing about ADHD strategies is they can be simple to implement, but it's not always easy to do so. And that depends on the resources in place and how easy it is to access the treatments. And one of the issues is many people have trouble accessing services. So sometimes schools have services available, but they're not always accessible to people, or mental health programs aren't always easy to access. So the treatments are not necessarily earth-shattering, but people need a comprehensive treatment plan that helps direct them to the right services that help them out.
So if you happen to be lucky and get a teacher who gets it,
yes.
I would think that unless it's across the board, even for that teacher who gets it, it might be a little difficult for he or she to implement. Would that be the case?
It can be, yes. And really it's a matter of a comprehensive treatment plan. So if we look just at the classroom, that's really taking one issue out of context. We really need to focus on treatment that affects the whole individual. So the child at home, the child at school, the child socially. We're looking at child's emotional, psychological, and behavioral functioning, looking at medication treatments. When you get the whole treatment package together, what we like to call multimodal treatment, then that's when we start to get significant momentum in helping kids to do well.
So good intent alone isn't going to cut it. If you don't have the right information, you possibly could be doing more harm.
Yes. Now, good intent goes a long way, right? Some understanding and compassion. Really, that's often what comes from people who understand what's truly going on. So that goes a long way. And yes, people also need very specific strategies, information, and the type of support that CADDAC can provide.
If you feel or if you sense that your child does have ADHD, where do you go from there?
Well, probably the first place to start is to talk to the family doctor or pediatrician. Get some information from the teacher, get some information from the after-school program or other adults who are involved in managing your child. Talk to the family doctor or pediatrician. If they're capable of it, they will do the assessment themselves, or they will refer you to an expert to help out.
So if one goes through the right steps, and if the steps are implemented properly, I would think maybe almost mandated, this would help relieve the stress for the parents, the student, and the teacher.
Absolutely. I mean, a diagnosis of ADHD is good news because we have treatments that can help significantly, and they're well proven, and there's tons of research behind them. So people's lives regularly turn around when they have the right diagnosis and the right treatment put into place.
And you don't subject the child to those really hurtful labels.
Exactly. The worst consequence of undiagnosed ADHD, misinformation, and poor support and poor understanding is that it ultimately affects kids' self-esteem. They develop shame and guilt about who they are and what they're capable of. And that's a real tragedy that should not be happening because we know what works. We know that the right help can make a dramatic difference.
Now, you spoke of the survey. There's a conference coming up, too, that could help people who are looking at the survey results and saying, I'm going through the same thing.
Absolutely. The CADDAC puts together a conference that this October is happening, and there's information to help with educators, help parents. They're going to be talking about girls and women with ADHD, which is often a big challenge, as well as adult ADHD. So it's a great resource for people to learn a lot more about what the science is and tools and strategies they can use.
Dr. Kenny, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Russ.
That was Dr. Kenny Handelman. To read and hear more about what Dr. Kenny has to say about ADHD, just visit his website, theadhdoctor.com. To learn more about CADDAC, as well as the survey we referred to, simply visit the CADDAC website. The address, CADDAC.ca. Once again, that's CADDAC.ca.